Welcome to Impact Unleashed, the nonprofit edition, where we dive deep into the untapped potential of nonprofits and their remarkable ability to create a lasting impact. I'm your host, Sara Mayer. Let's dive in. Welcome to Impact Unleashed, the nonprofit edition, the podcast where we empower nonprofit leaders with strategies, insights, and tools to amplify their impact. I'm your host, Sara Mayer, and today we're diving into a powerful concept, storytelling. This episode is inspired by Paul Smith's book, The 10 Stories Great Leaders Tell. And I know it's a little shorty book, so if you're thinking, oh, I don't have time to read a book, it's a short, quick read. While the book is not specific to nonprofits, its lessons are incredibly relevant for nonprofit leaders. There are 10 types of stories you can tell to help engage your donors, inspire volunteers, and motivate your team to work towards your mission. So stick around as we explore these stories, what they are, why they're so impactful, and in future episodes, we'll cover one story at a time so you can truly start crafting and practicing them today. Why are stories so essential for nonprofit leaders? Nonprofits live and breathe stories. Stories of the people you serve, the challenges you address, and the victories you achieve. But often, we spend a lot of time on data, and stories are how we can connect, inspire, and drive action. So Paul Smith argues that stories that leaders tell define their success. So for nonprofits, this is undoubtedly true. Stories don't just explain your mission. They make it relatable, tangible, and emotional. They answer key questions like, why does this organization exist? Why should I support this organization? And why does it matter now? So whether you're speaking to a donor, a board, a prospective board member, or your team, the right story can cut through the noise and leave a lasting impression. Let's dive into the 10 stories in the book and adapt them for the nonprofit world. These stories were organized into 3 categories: where we came from, where we're going, and who we are. So first off, where we came from. This is your founding story. Why was your organization started? Maybe it was born out of a personal experience, a social need, or even a movement of crisis. And this story answers the question, why does your nonprofit exist? Sharing this with donors or stakeholders or future board members helps them connect with the deeper purpose behind your mission. Story number 2, why we cannot stay here. This is the case for change story. It explains the current challenges or problems in your nonprofit and what you're addressing. Why is critical so your work can get accomplished. For example, 1 in 5 children in our community goes to bed hungry. This is why we can't wait to act. This story builds urgency and compels people to join your cause. Where we're going. Story number 3. This is your vision story. What does the world look like if your nonprofit succeeds? Paint a vivid picture of the future you're striving to create. For instance, imagine a world where every child has access to education, no matter where they were born. Number 4, where we're going. This is the strategy story. It explains the practical steps, 1, 2, 3, your nonprofit is taking to achieve its vision. This story resonates with and reassures stakeholders that your organization has a clear and effective path to make that impact that you're trying to make. For example, we're building a network of volunteers to distribute meals directly to families. Number 5, what we believe. This is your organizational value story. Instead of just listing your values on your website, use a story to show them in action. If you value innovation, share how your team created a new program to meet a community need during a crisis. Number 6, who we serve. This is everything in the nonprofit world. This is who your work benefits. So you want to tell a powerful story about someone whose life has been transformed by your organization. This is one of the most effective ways to inspire donors and to build emotional connections. Number seven, what we do for our customers or the people that we impact. This is your service story. It highlights how your nonprofit delivers its programs and services to those in need. For example, you might share a story of a single parent who found a safe place for their children thanks to your after school program. This one you should have a plethora of stories about. How we lead. This is your leadership philosophy story. It's a chance to share what leadership means to you and how you guide your organization. For example, I believe leadership is about empowering others, which is why I always encourage my team to bring their ideas to the table. Or you might say in a nonprofit world, we believe leadership is about empowering others, which is why we encourage the people that we serve to bring ideas to the table. How we're different. This is your differentiation story. Why should donors and partners choose your specific nonprofit over others working in a similar space? Highlight what sets you apart, your unique approach, your results, or your community connections. Number 10, why I lead here. This is your personal leadership story. It could be also why you want to work here or why you want to get involved here. Why are you passionate about your nonprofit mission? What brought you to this work? Sharing your personal why is really important and it helps to humanize you as a leader. All right, now that you know the 10 stories, how do you start crafting and sharing them? Let's break that down into three easy steps. First, identify the stories you already have. Think about your nonprofit's history, challenges, and successes, and pick one story. Which one of these stories can you already tell? Two, follow the story structure. He recommends a three-part structure. So, first, context, set the scene. Who, what, where, when, why is at stake. Number two, action. What happened? Describe the challenge or journey. Number three, result. How did it end? What's the takeaway? For example, if you're telling a story about who your nonprofit benefits, introduce the person, share the challenge, and show how your nonprofit helped transform their life. And then finally, practice telling your stories. Great stories don't fully emerge, fully formed. You need to practice building them with colleagues, refining them with donors, or even sharing on social media. And you want to pay attention to what resonates. And so you can refine your story. Storytelling isn't just a communication tool, it's a lifeline for nonprofits. It's how we connect emotionally with donors, prospective board members, prove our impact to funders, and inspire teams to keep going and making an impact. Now, imagine walking into your next donor meeting and sharing your vision story so vividly that they feel like they're part of your mission. Or imagine energizing your team with a story about why you can't stay where you're at and why their work is so important. That is the power of storytelling. So before we wrap up, here's a little challenge. Choose one of the 10 stories we talked about today and start crafting it for your nonprofit. Maybe it's your founding story, a vision story, or an impact story. Write it out, practice it, and use it in your next presentation, meeting, or campaign. Remember, stories inspire action, and nonprofit leaders inspiring action is at the heart of what we do. So that's it for today for this episode of Impact Unleashed, the nonprofit edition. If you haven't already, I highly recommend picking up the book, The 10 Stories Great Leaders Tell by Paul Smith. It's a quick and insightful read. It will help you transform your leadership through storytelling. As I mentioned, we will be exploring this book in future episodes and breaking down each of the stories, so check that out. If you enjoyed this episode of Impact Unleashed, the nonprofit edition, please subscribe, leave a review, and share it with a fellow nonprofit leader. Together, we can create meaningful impact one story at a time. Until next time, keep leading with purpose and making a difference.
Thank you for tuning into this episode of Impact Unleashed, the nonprofit edition. I'm so excited you were here on this journey. If you haven't signed up for our newsletters and wonderful resources, please visit nonprofitimpactunleashed.co. Again, that's nonprofitimpactunleashed.co. I look forward to seeing you on our next episode of Impact Unleashed.